Randy,
I am here.
welcome in to Red River North, right here on Total Coverage Sports, SEC channel. Dave Meyer, Randy Heights, 1077 The Franchise. We're going to talk a little bit about Temple. Not much to recap. That was a thorough ass kicking. We got a big one in Norman this weekend, though, Randy, as the much anticipated return of Jackson Arnold. Not exactly tearing it up through the air this season, doing a great job for Hugh Freeze on the ground, though. First I wanted to bounce back to Temple. We talked about this last week. Coming off a huge game, it hadn't really gone well for Brent since he's been in Norman. I was thoroughly impressed with how Oklahoma came out, handled business in Temple. I liked the idea to go for two after the touchdown. That sent a message. We haven't really seen Brent do that much at all in his time in Norman, but I thought that sent a really good message. We're not here to mess around. This is a new Oklahoma team. We're going to play to a standard, really not about the opponent. And they took care of business. We needed to see that.
No doubt, I'm with you. I thought last week's performance was kind of very telling of where this team is at and how they're playing. I mean, and it's kind of, if you remember last week when we were talking, I liked the idea of a road trip. Granted, I know they went to UCF and struggled and everything, but this team has already seemed like it's got a different makeup. And I like the fact that you're playing a nobody in Temple, one that's not scary at all. Going on the road to play them as opposed to hosting them, I felt like was a good thing to help keep this team focused. What better does a coach like to have than something to motivate the team? And I think a road trip is something you can use to inspire the guys, and it looked like based on that first drive offensively, they came out inspired.
Yeah, thoroughly impressed. I mean, the defense, they do what they do. They came out, got a 3-and-out right off the bat. The offense took right to it, and it looked the exact same intensity I saw the opening drive against Michigan, I saw against Temple, and that is what you're wanting to see. You want to see them play to a certain level each week, and regardless of who the opponent is, that's something we haven't seen the previous 3 years. Really like where this team is, man. That, like I said, there's not a lot to recap. The Keontae Lewis injury and interception was unfortunate. We'll talk about the depth chart in a little bit that does have him starting. A little bit surprised, but the more we hear, it sounds like it might have been a neck issue opposed to a concussion issue. So that would make more sense. And of course, our Mason Thomas being tossed out of the game in the second half, so he'll have to miss the first half against Auburn.
No doubt. I mean, the Lewis injury, it's still something to watch. We don't get the first injury report, until 7:15 tonight, I believe. So we'll already be done before
Yeah.
we get the first one. I expect, Dave, I think you know this, and everyone that's following along. I mean, these injury reports on Wednesday, it feels like anyone that's nicked up for any team out there is listed as questionable today. So for OU fans, don't look at this report tonight, whatever comes out, and go, oh God, because I expect there to be names on there that you're going, huh? A little head scratcher. And then it'll slowly rectify, whether it's tomorrow night if you guys go to probable and Friday and so on and so forth. I think what I'm looking for, you talk about the injury situation and the depth. Let's just talk R. Mason Thomas, Dave. I think that shows a big difference in this team. Last year, Dave, I think it could have been full panic mode if you lose R. Mason Thomas for half. You don't want to lose him. He's an All American type caliber guy, but you've got depth behind him for a half. I think you can sustain that with Oklahoma this year.
Yeah, and look, we kind of talked about this on post game after it happened. There are a lot of people that say it doesn't matter because Auburn doesn't throw the ball. These defensive ends and Brent schemes, you know this, they do a lot more than just rush the passer. They're very good, very important on holding the edge in the run game. Yeah, it's going to make a difference. But to your point, there isn't anybody panicking because they've got great depth behind these guys built in. I think going out and getting Marvin Jones from Florida State, we thought it was important, at the time. Now it really looks important when you've got to miss RMT for an entire half. But I expect that entire front to be tested and tested a lot. I mean, Hugh Freeze, I think he's kind of a joke, but that aside, he can coach offense. And I think he's going to have some very creative things that we see in the run game. Misdirection, the eye discipline of the OU defense is going to be very important, not getting caught up in the backfield. And look, Jackson, he can throw the ball. We've seen it. We've seen it in
Right.
person. That hadn't gone away. And they've got a couple of NFL type wide receivers. Cam Coleman is going to be a day one draft pick. Very dangerous on the outside when they do decide to throw. So, I mean, I think this offense is going to stress OU in a way they haven't been tested yet.
I think what's going to be interesting with when we're sitting here talking about, I think you're 100% right on the eye movement, getting them looking different ways with what he does offensively. And 100% right on the talent at the receiver that they have. My question, and it's something I've watched quite a bit of Auburn this year. Now we can say, they played Ball State. It's just like Oklahoma playing Temple. They're not going to show a lot. They opened with Baylor. They didn't show a lot that night, and I don't think they were keeping it hid because they were in a dogfight. I mean, if it's not for a turnover late, that game is a totally different ball game. They haven't stretched the field at all. And I'm going back going, okay, to your point, we know Jackson's got that capability, but is his confidence not there still? I mean, how many times do we hear in the preseason they're really, using kid gloves on him to get his confidence up? Is that where they're still at with Jackson Arnold? Because I really can't imagine, Dave, that they aren't stretching the field with these receivers, even in some of these other games. Last week against South Alabama, they're a decent club. That was a dogfight for a lot of it. I that's what I'm ready to see in the first quarter come Saturday. Has Auburn literally been playing coy every game this season? Or is this offense we've seen just with the 10-yard screens and stuff? Is that the Auburn offense with Jackson Arnold?
It could be, and Hugh Freeze and Auburn, Randy, they haven't forgot what Oklahoma did to them on the Plains last year. That miraculous skip six, 11-point comeback in the fourth. Auburn had that game, and they're pissed about it, and they're coming to win not only for their quarterback, but get a little payback for that. So, do I put it past Hugh Freeze to hold everything close to the vest the first three games? No, I don't. But to your point, you can't do that at the expense of losing either. And they were close in the Auburn or the Baylor game if they don't open it up to losing that game. So I'm kind of torn in the middle on that. I just don't think Jackson, going back to last year, there weren't a lot of downfield throws he completed for Oklahoma either. I don't know what's going on there. I mean, the first few games he looked okay with that, but whether it's just been lost, maybe he dealt with some kind of shoulder thing nobody knew about, or confidence is just completely shot. I don't know, but he right now is excelling at the run game. And what worries me about those wide receivers, to bring them up again, they don't need a perfect ball, right? You don't need Jackson in the pocket for 8 seconds to have them break loose. They're good enough. He can just put it up there and they go make a play. That's why I love seeing Gentry Williams listed on this depth chart being back for Oklahoma this week. That's big.
That is huge, and that's nothing against Cortland Gilroy, who's played phenomenal, but it all of a sudden puts him, who's played phenomenal this year, on Auburn's number two guy.
Right.
Gentry can take if the depth chart is right. We'll know more. Again, we'll know more as the next couple of days move on. And from everything I heard, it was an ankle injury with Gentry, and they just kind of played it safe last week, which I think we talked about this last week. That's what you should do against Temple. The last thing you want him to do is go out there and tweak it, and then he's out for a prolonged period of time. So if Gentry is back, that is huge for this team, especially. Let's go back to RMT being out. You want your top line corners out there. And that's what that's kind of the thing. Just play sound fundamental defense. And I feel like they can shut down what we've seen at least out of the Auburn offense so far this year. They can handle this Auburn offense.
No, I agree. I think that Oklahoma front seven is one of the best I think a lot of people have seen in their lifetimes. It's one of the best front four, down four I've ever seen in Norman. It's not just the four down; it's the four behind them. The rotation in general is it's hard to find better going back through years prior for any other team to boot. So it's really good. I think they're going to slow Auburn down and force Hugh Freeze, force Jackson Arnold to do other things. It's just going to come down to the Oklahoma defensive backs on those talented wide receivers making plays on the ball in the air. Conversely, Auburn's weak spot, that secondary has not been good this year. Randy, HeisMateer, man, he's really good. I mean, look, he's a hell of a ball player. I'm not sure I'm sold on the Heisman front runner yet or first team All American yet. I think he's got to show a little bit more. The Michigan game was good, but Two kind of subpar opponents this week will tell us a lot more, but I think this offense is going to be under stress as well. This defense is talented, and they've got a good front seven, one of the best pass rushers in the country. So glad to see Fasusi is back as well.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, and based on, I heard Ryan Chapman, who was in Philadelphia last week, talking this morning, talking about Fasusi. I kind of thought I saw him for a second with a walking boot on the sidelines.
You
He was
did.
talking about, okay, but he was talking about, I thought that was him, but he was talking also how he was moving around just fine, pregame wise, like the media, I guess, started thinking, man, if this was Auburn week, I think
Yeah.
Fasusi would play. So that those type of things make you feel better coming into this week. And I get your questions on Mateer. I'm not anointing him to any certain level right now, but I think with what he does, what he can cause problems with, yeah, I really like what this offense can do against that defense because I think the other thing and Auburn's defensive line, I think, is really good. Go back and look at the rush numbers Baylor put up against them.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
ran the ball. South Alabama ran the ball pretty good against them last week. So it's kind of one of those things where you're going, one of Auburn's strengths may not be as much of a strength as we think because, if OU can exploit the running game at all, that makes those defensive backs even more vulnerable, I think.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's going to come down to kind of what we talked about from Michigan, right? Can Oklahoma, you don't have to run the ball to win, but can you be effective with it? Can you pick up your 4 and 5 yard chunks to keep Auburn off balance and at least have a semblance of balance on offense? I think we're going to see a lot the same. Another big emphasis on this depth chart. Troy Blaylock is now shot to the top of the list, starting running back at Oklahoma. It's about time, Randy. He's looked like the best on campus for 3 weeks. He's going to get the nod this week. I love it. I think he looks like an every down running back in the SEC with a true freshman frame. It's going to get better with reps in the weight room, but he's doing a great job right now. And if he can just run enough to at least mix in some run and pass, I like Mateer and these OU wide receivers against that Auburn secondary.
I'm right there with you. And we've talked about Torrey. He's a phenomenal young kid. And, I think he gives them that little burst. I mean, watch what he did against Temple. I mean, did he have a 60, 70-yard run? No, but he had some bursts where he had some 10, 12, 30-yard runs, where you're like going, all right, this kid is for real. This is a big time kid. And whether we want to say anything about Ott, Barnes, Tatum when he comes back healthy, Robinson, this gives them, I think, more time to play with those other running backs and figure out who's truly going to be the number two guy behind Blaylock that picks up some of those carries, and that's the one thing I liked last week. And plus, one other thing, Dave, we both talked that, yeah, Michigan, Mateer ran it 19 times. But you notice that game, none of those really, or most of them, were not design runs. The other thing I liked what they showed against Temple was that zone read play
Yeah.
where Mateer took it to the house.
Yeah.
Those are the type of runs I want to see Mateer make that's going to make this running game more lethal when all of a sudden, oh, look, Mateer could keep it and take it 50, or he could hand it to Blaylock and he's going to take it 50. That's kind of the diversity I think this running game is needed. And I kind of thought it was funny that I think it shows the quality of offensive coordinator Arbuckle is. Do you have to show your whole hand? No. But you know what I want to do before Auburn week? Let's show them this. The John Mateer running the zone read. Let's do the 2 point conversion with, Jaron throwing the 2 point conversion. Like they didn't do a lot. They didn't open the playbook a lot, but they showed just a few things to go. You just thought you knew what to prepare for. Here's a couple more things, Auburn. You may want to throw that out there on your weekend game notes.
Yeah, and you know what had to happen before that zone read was effective? Oklahoma establishing a running back. And once they kind of keyed on play lock, once Mateer took that ball back, he faked out the cameraman, faked out the entire Temple defense, and he was out the gate. Got a few comments rolling in. Bishop Frank, Dr. Newkirk says heavyweight fight. Boomer. I saw another one up here somewhere. We'll get to all of them. Frank Newkirk is very excited for this game, obviously, but
Oklahoma,
Randy.
NBA Horn Boy. Oklahoma going to
Oh
put a
yeah,
BTA
Oklahoma going to
to
put
Auburn this weekend.
belt
Boot
to ass to Auburn this weekend.
belt or boot ass? Belt ass, either one. Yeah, probably belt. You're right.
I don't. Man, I got a tough feeling about this game. I like OU to win it, but I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be a dogfight. That being said, if Oklahoma can really truly shut down the Auburn run game, no, I don't think it's going to be close. Regardless how good their wide receivers are, I've got Oklahoma's defensive backs are some of the best in the country, in my opinion. Cortland Guillory has been outstanding. So uh, even if they win some, you go up and get it over those guys. I like Oklahoma in the long run to be better and eventually win, but it's going to come again to that front seven, and people just look straight at the numbers and say Oklahoma hadn't been good against the run. They've been damn good against the run. They had one get out the gate against Michigan for 75 yards. It kind of skewed things, but if you think you're going to just line up and run Jackson Arnold at that front seven and win the game in Norman, good luck.
You know what? I actually feel like this game's going to go a lot like Michigan. I do because I feel like the offenses are a little bit similar. I mean, yeah, you got a more veteran quarterback, if you will, with Jackson Arnold, but look at the style of offense that Michigan ran coming into Oklahoma. Look what Auburn runs. I kind of feel like, this plays into Oklahoma's hands. And the only thing that's going to keep this from getting a little out of hand would kind of be Oklahoma shooting themselves in the foot, whether it's with penalties or with turnovers, because I feel like, and we've talked about it all summer and everything else, Dave, there weren't too many tests coming in the preseason before Texas. And I kind of still feel that way. I feel like Oklahoma should go into 5-0 into Dallas without really stressing themselves too much.
You're not seeing much of a game coming up.
I I didn't see much. I mean, did we see much of a game in Michigan? To be honest with you, I think
Oklahoma dominated that game. It should have been a lot worse.
Michigan's better than Auburn. Michigan's better than Auburn,
Okay,
in
I can
my
see that.
opinion.
Okay.
Just across the board, from offensive line, defensive line. That's just me. I feel like Michigan's the better team. Now, if this game was on the Plains, who knows? Different. Kind of like what I said with the Big House. Crowd, everything can be a difference maker. But I think in Norman, this crowd's going to be jacked, even though it's a 2:30 in the afternoon game. It's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, I got more comments rolling in. Boy, Frank, Dr. Newkirk, Boomer. This guy's fired up for the game. I'm here for it. Love the passion. Trojan fight. I think Mateer is good, but I'm not so sure a guy with 5 TDs and 3 picks should be the favorite currently. We just talked about that. Mr. Random, good evening. Thanks for being here. Look, I'm right there. I just said John Mateer is a very good football player, a damn good football player, and a good quarterback. And you can tell he's got great leadership for this team. I'm not ready to anoint him the Heisman favorite yet. I'm not, ready to say he's a first team All American yet. I need to see, some more longevity and wins and doing, things against better opposition. So I'm right there. I think the hype is, it's a bunch of bullshit. Everybody's got to go through it if you win a couple games in a place like Oklahoma.
Well, to be honest with you, the reason he's a Heisman front runner or second behind Carson Beck is simply look around the country.
That's true. That's another
There's
good
no
point.
one besides Beck and Mateer,
Yep.
no one has taken the reins.
Yep.
I mean, and you go back to, well, Mateer has a big win over Michigan. Carson Beck has a big win over Notre Dame and South Florida. That's kind of the difference why he shot up the ranks. Because I'm with you, 5 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. Even though you got to factor in the rushing touchdowns and the rushing yards as
Sure.
well with Mateer. I mean, but that's the reason why no one else has taken the reins to this race. That's the reason why Beck and Mateer, if Mateer has another really good weekend against Auburn, those two have right now solidified themselves as 1-2 in the Heisman race, and it takes those two to fall on their face the rest of the year.
No, that's a good point. I mean, Cade Klubnik, where you been? Arch Manning, where you been? I mean, really,
Shit
there's
in the bed,
nobody else.
evidently.
Oh man, we'll talk on a little Texas later in the show, and I'll kind of give some takes on what I've seen watching them play. First half was not pretty against UTEP, Randy, but no, I think Oklahoma, Mr. Random, PJ fixing a feast. Yeah, we just
I
talked about the depth behind RMT.
mm,
He's not a bad guy. Did you happen to see? I'm sure our audience did, but he was in on pass coverage against Temple.
mm-hmm.
I think the first play after the interception, and it was a fade route to their tight end. You got a 6'4", 260-pound defensive end out covering that, and it was perfect pass coverage. I mean, this guy, he's an athletic freak, and
Yeah,
Oklahoma fans should not panic one bit. He's the guy backing up RMT in the first half.
and don't get carried away. I'm not saying he's lived up to the hype that he came in with so far this season,
Sure.
but he's progressing to that point with the way he played the last 2 weeks. You're kind of going, hey, you're starting to finally see those flashes, and that's why, yeah, I feel okay with RMT being out for 2 quarters. That maybe, just maybe, they don't lose that much in the sense of getting exposed in any way like they would have last year, to be honest with you.
My boy Nash. Nash talks Texas. Mateer is balling. Yeah, we've kind of talked on that. I'm not sold. I'm not going to say he's a Heisman winner yet, and I'm not going to say he's a first-team All-American yet. But as somebody pointed out, he's on the right path. And look, comparatively to what we saw, the trash on the field for Oklahoma last year on that offense trying to lead it, there is no comparison. John Mateer is a baller. I think if this is going to make any sense to anybody, it will to you, Randy. I think he is a football player first and a quarterback second. And I think
Yep.
that's what this team is feeding off of. You can tell they follow this guy. They'll follow him into battle. That's what they've needed.
No doubt. I mean, and again, I'm not going to say he's Baker Mayfield, but does he have a little of that
Yep.
that Baker has, the leadership role, you know, let's go, whatever the team needs at that moment? Yeah, he's got that. That doesn't mean he's not going to end up winning Heisman, or he's not going to be an All American, he's not going to be an NFL guy. But he does have that it factor because you can tell whether it's defensive guys or offensive guys, they follow him as a leader and they want to support him. And that's what this team needed.
Yeah, it is. And what I like about this specific team, as good as the OU defense is, what they've been doing, Mateer's a risk taker. He's a gunslinger. That's you have to take the good with the bad. He's going to put the ball in harm's way sometimes, but what I've loved is anytime that's happened this year, the defense has risen to the occasion. They have either forced a 3-and-out and got the ball back, or they have bowed their neck and forced a field goal if it's happened on Oklahoma's end, and put a stop to it. So I mean, you've got a guy that's going to force the issue sometimes, but you've got a defense good enough where they can erase those mistakes, much like Satania dropping the punt against Michigan, 3-and-out, and they get the ball back. That being said, against better opposition, Satania is going to have to be better. Mateer is going to have to be better. But look, they're 3-0, and compared to where we sat preseason coming in to where Oklahoma and a couple other teams nationally are, the perception has completely changed. Now it's Oklahoma's a really good football team, and they're being talked about to win the SEC. John Mateer is a big reason why.
No doubt. I mean, and I'll go back to it. And I wasn't totally impressed with Michigan, but the one thing we thought they had was a really good defense, right?
Yeah.
Based on what I saw last week in the SEC, I don't know if Oklahoma's going to play a better defense than what they played in Michigan. I mean, look at those games. I mean, Texas is really good. I mean,
Yeah, they are.
they're probably better, but the rest of the teams on OU's schedule, is there better defense than what they faced in Michigan already? Tennessee?
That's it's at least up for
No.
debate.
I mean, it's like you look around around the conference, and that's why I think people should feel good about what this team should be able to accomplish. LSU maybe. LSU's the other one. Nash talks Texas. I thought he had a good point here. He says best tight end quarterback duo since Baker and Andrews. 100%. And we'll get into more of Jaron later. But
Yes,
I
we
mean,
will.
that's the thing. You look at this, Dave. They played a lot of great defenses, or they played a great defense already, and they're not going to play many more than what Michigan is.
Uh-oh.
Are you there?
There you go. There we go. You're good.
I just finished my comment. I thought you were still talking, and I
Oh,
muted my
okay.
mic
No,
because I had to
look,
cough.
I agree with that, and I agree with Nash. Jaron Kanek, my God, to see where he's at right now, speaking of preseason, nobody saw this coming. Nobody saw tight end one. Nobody saw this production. I don't give a shit what anybody says now. It was like a novelty, right? Oh, yeah, that's going to be fun to watch, and he might play some. This dude, I think, leads the nation in tight ends for receiving. He's like 8th in the country overall in receiving. And I'll tell you what, we keep talking about Michigan, how big a game that was. Very first drive, Oklahoma's first 2 plays do nothing. They face a 3rd and 9. There's groans in Memorial Stadium. Here we go again, a quick 3-and-out. A high ball over the middle to guess who? Jaron Kanek, a one-handed catch, goes on to spur a touchdown drive. We might look back at that catch later on as a very important catch in OU football this season because I think that game goes drastically different if that's a 3-and-out for Oklahoma on the first possession. He's been amazing. And it's not just catching the ball. The dude can block on some of Mateer's design runs. He's blocking one of the best defenders overall in college football and putting him on his ass. I mean, the guy has just been incredible.
It's a couple of things we'll talk about with Jaron. It's kind of crazy to think. Did I think he'd be a factor? Somewhat. I did, just because he was an athletic freak. And I thought, oh, he'll make a play here. He'll make a play there because he's an athletic freak. Yeah. Doing what he's doing this year, to your point, zero people in the country
No.
thought it would happen. I don't care. The biggest OU homer in the world didn't think it would happen. But I would you and I both have talked about this, and I would love after the start he's got off to, and he would never say differently. I'd love to put a truth serum in Brent Venables and go, do you wish in year 2 you'd have said, you know what, this linebacker experiment, it's not working. It's not working. Time to move him back over there to
I'm kind of
offense
glad
where
he
it's
didn't,
natural
though,
side.
because the offense was so ass. I think he'd have been wasted if he had. I'm really glad to see him with an actual
Well, year
OC
two
and
was
actual.
Dylan, though. Year two was Dylan. Year 2 was Dylan Gabriel, though.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that would have been all right, I guess.
Anyway, I get to your point, but I'm like, yeah, I just sometimes wonder, does he go, man, if we'd had Jaron over there, a tight end that could actually do something, even
Man.
last year, does that help Jackson Arnold? Does that make him a better quarterback? Because a tight end, how many times is it your safety valve? There was no safety valve last year. The safety valve was cut off. It was welded shut, And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it's just kind of crazy to think how his progress has been just in such a short window.
It's incredible. I mean, you talk about guys in the room that have been playing the spot their entire career. Jaron's been playing it for 6 months, and he's not only better than they are, he's better than a lot of people in the country right now. I guess that's just what talent, an athlete, looks like. A 6'2", 230-pound guy that can run like a gazelle, knows what to do with the ball, he can catch, and once it's unleashed, this is what it looks like. But more to it is the blocking aspect that I didn't see coming. I mean, he doesn't have the prerequisite size of your traditional tight end, but he's holding his own right now. I still think when they go up against bigger defensive lines in the SEC, you might see two tight end packages with Jaron more of an H back, maybe a split end type of deal. But he is too big a security blanket for John Mateer to ever be off the field in critical down and distances. You can tell Mateer there's more to it than just knowing a guy is a good athlete. You're going to throw the ball to him. There is a trust factor that you have to have with some guys to be successful. You can tell Mateer has that with Jaron Kanek.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's amazing their chemistry that they've gotten so quick together. I mean, think about it. Jaron moved in the spring. Maybe it was good that that's when he moved. That way, as soon as Mateer comes in, they were able to almost merge in together
Right.
instantly. It wasn't like Mateer had been working with this team for an entire year and just got a new toy to play with. It just gave them both the jumping off point. And I'll say this, I'm not defending him, but I do think some credit has to be given to Joe John Finley. I mean, as much as we rip him for different things, a coach is involved in getting Jaron to this level, so quick, so fast. It's like, I think we've seen that Joe John can at least coach up tight ends. Now the question is, can he get them on campus?
I'm gonna have to disagree. I think this is just Kanek because he's a badass athlete. He's finally being unleashed. And look, it's more of an indictment to me that Joe John Finley has been there for 3-4 years, and all the guys he's coached up and developed can't beat out a guy that just moved 3 months ago. That to me is like, what are we doing? There's a couple position coaches that I'm not sure, but I won't take this show negatively. But I think regardless what happens at the end of the season, they need to evaluate some lack of production at spots. Jumping to the running back, we've kind of touched about Troy Blaylock getting a start. I like that. Jaden Knott, I'm to the point Rodney Anderson was last. I don't care anymore. If it's Blaylock, great. If it's Xavier Robinson behind him, great. Barnes every now and then, whatever. But Randy, I don't think he's that good, man. I think the more I watch him play, I don't see anything that screams, oh, yeah, he's got to be OU's starter. I see a fourth string running back, and that's probably why he is where he's at.
Well, and I'm not going to say he's not that good. I think it's what I talked with Rodney about last week. And I don't think enough people give this credence. And it's even what Rodney said, kind of after he thinking about it last week. I think coming off an injury, some guys start overthinking it. And I think when you watch Jaden Knott, you can see a guy that he may never get over it, because I think he's overthinking himself, so worried about getting injured again. I mean, and that may be one reason he may should have stayed at Cal with the running back coach that knows him. Because remember, Rodney mentioned last week when I asked him that, that hey, when he came off an injury, he was very reluctant, but the coaches that knew him, that knew he could do it because they had seen him for years before the injury, basically just said, go out there and do it. They were encouraging in his ear. He's now with a whole new staff that, yeah, they saw some stuff on game film, but they haven't seen it in person. Maybe they don't know how to push him right. And that could be the difference. It's not an excuse, but I think right now at this point in time with Jade Knott, it doesn't matter if he does anything this year or not, but it's a mental thing. And it may just take one game where he gets in there and, hey, he gets a handoff and he busts off a long run, and that may be all he needs. And all of a sudden, you're seeing the Jade Knott we've all heard and saw in his freshman year at Cal, and we may never see it.
No, it's reading between the lines of Brent Venables' press conference last Saturday, saying I wish he was further along in so many areas. No, I didn't mean he's not good. I mean, coming off the injury, he might not be to what he was. And when they looked at game film at Cal, maybe thought they were going to get something that just is not back to where it was before he got hurt and he got on campus. And it was like, well, we got him now. It's too late to do anything about it. So I don't know. There's something there as to there's something holding him back. We'll eventually either find out one of these days or not. I don't care. Oklahoma paid a pretty good sum to get him on campus, so it's kind of a waste right now. But hey, the emergence of Blaylock has made up for it. I kind of talked about Gentry Williams being back is big. Mike Basusi being back on the O-line this week. Yeah, that's gigantic, Randy. Mateer, he's taken some hits this year. He took some at Temple where I'm like, yikes. One where he jumped up to throw a pass and got belted in the stomach. Yeah, it was an impressive pass, but there was another one he came across the field, jumped as he was being hit, and his head slammed back. I'm like, you don't need to be doing that against Temple. They need to have these guys up front, all the horses they've got against this Auburn defensive front. That's the only chance I think Auburn has is to really get after John Mateer and force turnovers. That's the only area, the only negative aspect you can look at with this guy. And Oklahoma in general, they're -5 in the turnover department. You'd like to see the defense start to force some, but in my opinion, that's the only way Auburn can win this game. I do think it's going to be closer than people think, but they've got to take care of the football, and getting starting offensive linemen back will help.
No doubt. I think that's huge. And, for Susie being back, we saw how well they played him against Michigan, when that unit's in there together. That is big. And, that's kind of an area I'm going to watch because also the other thing, Troy Everett announced, injured, out for the year. That really makes that center position because Fabici, however you say his name, anyway, I think he's truly the backup center if something was ever to happen there for long-term injury. And unfortunately, that starts the shuffling of the offensive line. Other than that, this offensive line, as long as Pazuzu gets back, I think they're in really good shape to keep gelling and get bigger and better right now.
Mr. Random, breaking news. NCAA eliminates spring transfer portal window. How about that?
I actually love that, to be honest with you. And put it this way. I love it if that means now we're down to one transfer portal window.
Agreed.
And I didn't care.
Is that what it means? Do we know yet?
And it's funny, I dropped my phone, so I can't check Twitter. I would assume, I know that's what it was being talked about, was it 2 weeks ago and everything? So
Okay.
I think if that's the case, it's great. And I didn't care whether they eliminated the spring portal or the winter portal. I didn't care which one it was, Dave. Just get rid of one where it's down to one window. Because right now, that's a pain in the butt.
Look, we talked about this last week just to hop up on a pedestal here. I wish they would go back to the old transfer portal rules, right? If you transfer, you've got to sit out a year. I think I'm with Rodney. I think that would solve so many things of guys saying, you know what? Is it worth it to go sit for a year, or do I actually want to sit in my room and work hard and overcome these guys in my room? And it would also help as far as having to recruit against 10,000 guys. I mean, I don't know why they would change it, but I hope that is the next move.
Well, put it this way. I think the NCAA has to do something. I meant to bring it up with Rodney last week. I don't think they can do that, Dave, because here's the deal. Until the NCAA steps up and goes to school and go, hey, you know what? You give that kid a scholarship, it's at least a 2-year run.
Oh, yeah.
Because right now, Those are when you're not, as a kid, as much as we want them to be loyal. Say the kid doesn't pan out. Let's just say it's PJ, right? Who's had injury problems and everything like that. All of a sudden, OU wants to get rid of him after his freshman year because he didn't live up to expectations because they got the next 5-star. He can do nothing about it, but the university can go, yeah, you're not getting your scholarship next year. I think that's the difference. It's like, as much as we want to almost all focus on the student athlete, there's got to be a give and take, kind of like we talk in this world in general, Dave. There's not enough people coming together to compromise on issues in the world.
Yeah.
Same thing in athletes in the NCAA. Guess what? You can't give all the power to the coaches and athletic department to go, we want you or we don't want you, without giving a little to the kids.
Well,
Because
I
I both
think,
know kids that have been eliminated for that reason.
yeah, I think the fan bases kind of lose patience with that now because these guys are paid, as professionals. So it's looked at as like you're cutting somebody off a team, which professional teams do. If you want to be paid and called a professional, you can't have it both ways and then complain if you're cut and you got to go sit out for a year.
But I'll say this:
Those 1 year contracts for the, let's be honest, even though they're 4 year, those guys can renegotiate and everything, just like the pros. They're basically 1 year free agents, even on NIL deals.
Right.
That's where it's like you got to figure that happy medium to have a guarantee. Because I'm with you, they're professionals, they're getting paid. But at the same time, if there's no safety blanket, because even if you sign a 4 year deal, but you didn't live up to it, and that coach wants to get rid of you, it doesn't matter. You signed a 4 year NIL deal. I guarantee you, they're not paying you the next 3 years if the coach moved on from you to someone else. That's why I'm saying there's got to be some type of figuring this out. That's why I've always said all along, make them 2 year scholarships. You know, at least
Well,
2 year
that would take
scholarships, 2 year NIL.
that would take common sense, and the NCAA has never had an overabundance of that. Yeah, I agree. Accountability, there's not enough of that to go around in the world. All right. Just to confirm, it did move that to a single portal window now. So that's good news. I like to see that. I did want to touch on Texas since we got some fans in here. I had a chance to go back and watch Texas and UTEP. Wow, first half, not pretty. A lot of boos off the field at the halftime. Second half, I thought Arch was a little bit better. You could tell that Steve Sarkisian was designing things to kind of protect his quarterback. A lot of designed rollouts, easy completions, quarterback run. I wouldn't like that as a Texas fan. I'd like to see him stand in the pocket and show some development, some layered throws and different combination routes. But you didn't see that. So, those that are concerned about Arch Manning, I think you have every right to be. The offensive line, to me, is a little limited what they can do in the run game, which would take pressure off of Arch. I think they just might be stuck in kind of a weird spot until Arch gets it back.
now, granted, they have a lot of injuries at running back right now.
It's kind of funny, Dave, and we've talked about this. And yes, I think they're better. So, Texas fans that are watching this, I'm not going that far, but it reminds me a lot of Oklahoma last year. The only difference is quarterback struggling. All the injuries for Oklahoma last year were in the receiving room. Quarterback struggling this year for Texas. All the injuries and the room has been decimated right as of right now in that running back room for Texas. You know, and that's a big factor. And there's other things to compare last year. Last week going into the game, Texas was 121st in the country in third down conversions. I know at one point last week they were 0 for 9 on third down conversions. It's really mirroring a lot, and that goes with a young quarterback.
And we're seeing that. First year for
Arch to be starting, he's seeing some of those growing pains right now.
Yeah, the one, I guess, rebuttal I would have about OU last year versus Texas this year, I'll take Steve Sarkisian over Seth Luttrell any day. I do think he will scheme some stuff to start moving the football and be more efficient on offense. The good news for Texas, one of the best defenses in college football, Colin Simmons, Anthony Hill, Taff on the back end. They're really good. Their special teams are as good as it gets, and I do think Sark will start to turn things around offensively. I just think he's going to have to be really creative how he does it until Arch Manning either gets back or finds some type of rhythm as quarterback at Texas. But I do expect them to be better, and probably Arch goes off 40 of 45, 4 touchdowns against Oklahoma in the Cotton Bowl. But that game, Randy, that's starting to look, I keep saying preseason perception to now, boy, OU Texas now opposed to then. Looking at the game, I'm really starting to like the Oklahoma side of it. I'm really trying to talk myself down and not like get too high expectations for the fan base, but just seeing what I see, that's going to be a hell of a game in the Cotton Bowl.
I mean, I haven't looked ahead, how you can see the future lines, as far as matchups. And I think coming in, they were a 9.5 point favorite, Texas was at the start of the year. I'm just guessing right now. I'm just thinking out loud. I bet it's down to about 4.5 now. That would be my guess,
Yeah, I can see
and
that.
I think that's probably justified. And to be honest, if it keeps going this way for the next couple of weeks, I won't be shocked if Oklahoma's the favorite by kickoff on that game. Just for, like if everything continues at its pace, because as bad as Florida looked against LSU, as far as DJ Lagway is concerned,
Yeah.
I mean, Texas is going to have its hands full the week before Oklahoma. That game in the swamp, probably under a new head coach. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, it's going to be very, very interesting to watch, because it's hard for me to pick Texas in any game right now. I'm not
I'm
just
not.
saying.
I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up on the horns yet. Again, I can't unsee what that defense looked like, and I know they can play space. I know Arch Manning. He doesn't suck. I mean, the guy is a good quarterback, and if he finds it again, watch out. I just, they lost a lot. Matthew Golden, Isaiah Bond, Gunnar Helm, those were really big weapons I didn't hear anybody talk about in the offseason. So you got to find some guys with speed somewhere on that lineup to go get the football and help them out. But bouncing around the SEC, Texas A&M with a hell of a victory on the road, playing the Irish, got away with a wee bit of a hold and a tackle on that, just a little bit. That was still very impressive, man. I'm really impressed with what Mike Elko's got going on in College Station.
Yeah, it was a big win for them. I mean, to be honest with you, A&M, I think I don't know how many A&M fans are in there right now, but we all talk about them. It was a big win for Elko. And, you know, I'll say this, I think Notre Dame's really good, but could have they maybe just been a wee bit overrated in the preseason with a young freshman quarterback?
A little bit.
It's like you're starting to see that offense struggle, and part of that's due to Miami's a really good defense. A&M looks like they've got a pretty good defense. I give the opposing teams credit, but how much is that also due to the fact, young quarterback was not ready for prime time, and it's going to be some growing pains for Notre Dame. But that was a huge win, I think, for not only A&M but for the SEC. They've lost 3 games to Power Four teams this year. I think their overall record is like 12-3 as a conference now.
Not too shabby. Yeah, I mean that's tough conference. How about the Nerds of Vanderbilt just putting belt to ass against South Carolina? Of course, Sellers goes out with a concussion early on, but look, Vandy's good. Diego Pavia is a baller, and I wouldn't want to play that team under any circumstance.
It doesn't matter at their place or at your place. They are dangerous, and they're that kind of team that even though they're not the most talented team on the field, you can see they've just got the belief,
Yep.
especially when one little thing goes wrong. And they were already in the game, and I think they may have won it whether Sellers plays or not. I think Vandy may still win that game, but back to the belief, as soon as he went out, you just saw that team ratchet up another notch, and you kind of knew at that point in time, oh, unless a miracle happens, South Carolina is getting ready to get their asses handed to them. And that's what happened. And I feel bad for Shane Beamer because, man, if I'm a South Carolina fan, as much as Oklahoma fans were upset at Brent Venables and everything like that, if I'm a South Carolina fan and this season doesn't go the way you thought it was going to go, I'd be pretty upset right now if I was a donor and a booster at South Carolina.
A lot of hype and anticipation for the Gamecocks this year. I saw things in their opener against Virginia Tech. I wasn't impressed. I mean, Sellers looked good, but that offensive line was a sieve, and he was getting hit about every throw. So, yeah.
And we got a Virginia Tech, Dave. To your point, they fired their coach. That's how good they are.
Not good. Not good. I did see former Oklahoma Sooner Kevin Gillum, that was number 44 in Norman, as one of their team captains. So, rough ride out there with the Hokies. But, Randy, let's jump back to Auburn. We'll wrap this up. I've said a couple times I think this is going to be a very close game. I see kind of a 4-quarter slugfest with Oklahoma pulling away late because they're playing in Norman. But those of you watching, make no mistake about it. Auburn has not forgotten what Oklahoma did to them last year on the Plains, the skip six. that pissed them off. They're coming for revenge, and they've got the team that can do it. It's all going to come down to Oklahoma's front seven, containing Jackson Arnold, containing the run game, not being confused by the misdirection, all the eye candy. Stay disciplined. I like Oklahoma to do that, but I like them to win, but not cover. I'm going to go Oklahoma 35, Auburn 31.
Wow. You've got to give them about twice as many points as they have all year long.
Well, I think Hugh Freeze has been holding
Yeah.
stuff close to the vest. I just do.
I'm going to go, I think you're right. I think it'll be a competitive game. Don't get me wrong. But, I look at this team and I've watched a lot of Auburn this year. Not impressed. And they've
Okay.
had times they need to impress. I think Jackson Arnold's better than last year, I think. But how much better? I'm not sold on it. I mean, I've watched this kid. He still doesn't throw deep. He's going underneath. It's going to be interesting to watch. I've got Oklahoma winning 31-13, and I think it's going to be a lot like the Michigan game. I mean, that's about what I had OU beating Michigan by 10 before the game. I feel like it's going to be right in that, 18 to 10 to 18 point range again. I mean, and it's not because I'm sitting there thinking Oklahoma's dominant. I just don't think Auburn's any good. I think Hugh Freeze will be looking for a job at the end of this year.
I can see that. I know that Auburn's roster, top to bottom, has a ton of talent. A lot of athletes. The skill guys are unbelievable. The secondary again hasn't put it together, but that front four is really good. They can get after the passer and stop the run. So we'll see. But this is just another game this year, Randy, that Brent Venables has to show. Right, this is a different Oklahoma team. It's one more building block. He's done well. He beat Michigan. He followed it up on the road with Temple. This is the next thing. If they can win this, I love where Oklahoma's at, rolling into the Cotton Bowl undefeated. You got a bye week, you got Akron. You assume that's going to be a win. And to me, that was vital for this OU team with what the back half of that schedule looks like. Go to the Cotton Bowl undefeated, regardless what happens in that game. You give yourself a fighting shot down the stretch.
No doubt. And that's all you can ask for. And I think that's why in the preseason, when people ask me, kept going, how many games does Brent have to win? I kept going, I can't put a number on wins
That's
because
a loaded question.
I expected them to be 5-0. They only win 8 games overall this year. I think it gets very interesting for Brent. At that point in time, it depends. Those final 3 wins, are they Texas, Mississippi, and Alabama? Okay, he's probably keeping his job. Those are 3 pretty hefty wins against some really good competition. But if they're South Carolina, who I don't know if it's going to be as good as we thought, Missouri, and you pick the third one, Dave.
Old Miss.
Yeah, Ole Miss, he could be in a little hot water. It just that's why it's interesting to watch as this year moves on. I think Oklahoma fans need to be excited about where this team is, especially when they get to 5-0 going to Dallas. But also don't get carried away because the back half of the schedule is very tough, and that's where I think we're going to really know what this team is. I'm not sure the first half shows us any more than they've improved. But are they that next level improved? That's what we find out in the second half of the season.
Yeah, going into Texas undefeated 5-0 might actually be a bad thing for Brent, depending what happens down the stretch. Because you're exactly right. You end up with 4 or 5 losses when you start off 5-0. No fan base likes that, and it's not going to show a ton of improvement. But that's a very tough schedule. That'll be a different deal. But we've got more scores coming in. Mr. Random is on your side. 28-13 OU. Nobody is sold on the Freeze. The Mr. Freeze and Jackson Arnold coming to Norman. Yeah, I get it, man. I just can't get over the sting they must have felt on the Plains last year with Oklahoma stealing that one. They're coming to play for their quarterback. They know he wasn't exactly wrong, but Oklahoma didn't exactly handle that as good as I think they could have. So they're coming to win for him. They're coming to get revenge. There's a lot of motivation for them. And we'll see. It's Brent Venables, so that's kind of why I think it's closer. He's got a chance to prove me wrong, and then maybe next year I'm like, yeah, they do blow him out, but I got to see it first.
Yeah, no, I get your point, but I think you look at this team and how they played. There's just a different makeup on this
There
team,
is.
and I'm one that I've defended Dylan Gabriel's teams. Like the only time Brent's had a quarterback and a defense that was halfway decent together was year 2 when they won 10 games. And that's kind of, but even in that, the leadership on this team seems different, whether it's on the offensive side or defensive side. That's what I feel like is separating this team, and I feel like has been missing from Oklahoma for Brent's first 3 years. That I truly believe now, and it's nothing against, Danny Stutzman or Billy Bowman. I feel like there's an entire roster that's ready to take up accountability. Like if somebody doesn't do wrong. And I almost feel like there were two guys back then. You know, I feel like this is an entire roster. If you don't step up and do what you're supposed to do, coaches don't have to get in the guy's face. I think there are teammates that are about going, dude, what the fuck?
And you have to have that to be a great team. Yeah, to your point, this is the first year with Brent. He's got all of his own guys. His entire recruiting cycle, these are all his guys. Lincoln Riley's are flushed out, so there could be something to that. I will say this: they seem extremely close. When Keontez Lewis went down at Temple, if you notice, the entire team came out and took a knee around him. It seems like a very tight knit group of guys, and that's what you have to win. But we'll be back to recap it next week. Randy, any closing thoughts?
No, not really. I mean, just real fast, I was going to mention, Mr. Rain and Brian Kelly going off in the reporter is hilarious.
Oh, my God, yes.
It was hilarious, but also it's like Brian Kelly. Getting going off, I mean, LSU won, but thank God for Lagway giving you 5 interceptions. Your offense is putrid ass right now. It's my God. The Sur and more that I'm just down the road from smells better than what LSU's offense is throwing out there. I mean, and that's what we thought is a Heisman candidate and Doug Nussmeier, and they're not hiding anything. Yeah, I mean, literally, Dave, if Lagway could complete passes, how many times were they down in the red zone when he threw an interception?
Yeah, and Lagway's not what we thought either. That's
it's a head scratcher. Both of them.
That's kind of talking about the HeisMateer why he's up there, because Lagway's not what we thought. Sellers is okay. Nussmeier's, that's why he's up there. There's nobody else that's done it. So
I think that's to our point. When I sit there and go, I don't necessarily think in some years he would be up there as a leader, but when no one has the balls to step up, guess what? Guys that are putting up numbers and winning a big game here and there, they jump to the top of that list.
Well, Mateer's got a chance to climb one more rung on the ladder this week. Huge game in Norman, 2:30 ABC, and we'll see what happens. Now, for Randy Heights,
the first time in Norman, by the way, Dave. How about that?
I'm kind of stoked. I think I like that. I never liked Fox Sports Kickoff, whatever that's called.
Yeah,
College Game Day to me is kind of a novelty at this point. It's fun, but I like this SEC thing coming to town. I kind of think it's original.
Yeah, no, I like it. It's neat. And you also get Marty and I can't even think of the other guy's name right now. I'm just losing my mind.
Is Marty the guy that talks like this? Because we were down in Talladega.
Marty and McGee. Yeah, Marty and McGee. Yeah, Marty's the NASCAR guy more so.
We were down at Talladega last year, and I told him Alabama's going to be good. That guy. Okay.
They do their show Sunday morning, and, of course, we get the alien, Paul Feinbaum, on campus on Friday afternoon.
Nash says big noon kickoff. I don't know if he likes it or doesn't like it. Oh, he's just telling me how to say it. Big noon kickoff. Yeah. I think they had a Dave Portnoy, which, whatever, man. These
guys on there now. Yeah,
Yeah, just get David Pollock back somewhere talking football. I don't need to hear guys yelling about professional wrestling, all this bullshit anyway. Different story, different show.
Today.
Yeah.
Pollock picked OU big today, so there you go.
I did see that. He called it rat poison or whatever you want to call it, but I don't know. People are saying that John Mateer's really good. No, he's really good. They got a chance to go out and show it Saturday, and we'll see what it looks like. All right. For Randy Heights, I'm Dave Meyer. This has been Red River North.